Welcome back. I hope you're having a fantastic day. And we're going to take a look at Bitcoin and the stock markets, crypto markets, and let's see if Chairman Powell is trying to single-handedly take down all of the markets. Powell came out today and says inflation is much too high and the Fed will take the necessary steps to address. So the market was mostly flat and it had dropped up to 300 points on the Dow. Which is about 1%, dropped almost 1% on the S&P and the NASDAQ as well as soon as he mentioned that. What Chairman Powell is saying, the Federal Reserve Board chair is saying is that the economy is strong, there's plenty of jobs, there's not a problem in the labor market, and that they need to address and attack inflation and be much more aggressive on policy. So they're starting to telegraph a 50-point basis rate hike on their next meeting. So that the market can slowly unwind because they are trying to land softly. So they are sitting around the table discussing policy, discussing the decisions they need to make. They know there's a problem in inflation. They know that the inflation can slow growth and put the economy into recession globally. So they know they need to act. So they vowed to take action on inflation, which he said jeopardizes the recovery. Powell also said the Fed will continue to hike rates until inflation comes under control and could get even more aggressive than last week's increase, which was the first in more than 3 years. He also noted that rates could go from the traditional 25 basis points move to the more aggressive 50 basis points. So we shall see if they come out with that. And again, the last time they did that was in 2018, and we saw the results. Markets are already down 10, 15, 20% across the board in terms of overall deleveraging that's been taking place over the last several months. We'll take a look at that in a second. So there's probably another 10, 15% to go before markets revert back to the mean and can continue to try and recover and carve out a traditional forward path moving into the future. So we'll have to just wait and see. Right now, the Fed is saying the labor market is very strong and inflation is much too high. So they need to act, and they need to act fast before it becomes a severe, uncorrectable problem and creates a deeper recession that than already is contemplated by issues abroad with the war, with China's issues with the pandemic flaring up in Europe and China, and supply chain issues and things like that. That's just going to continue to put more pressure on things. And we also have at the same time, housing is starting to correct with mortgage rates rising, and they're going to continue to go up. So lots of stuff on the table, lots of things for Powell to look at. In the crypto markets, Goldman Sachs makes a milestone crypto trade with Galaxy Digital. The bank's first over-the-counter crypto transaction could spur other Wall Street heavyweights to follow suit. So like we've been talking about, what the space needs in order for price to go up is more capital in the space, need more broad scale adoption, more retail investor interest, because a lot of retail has been taken out of the market over the last year with the market fluctuations. A lot of people have given up on crypto, have exited the market, and will not come back. And it's going to take some time for people to regroup and new capital to come into the space. And that's kind of what happens with the peaks and valleys. We'll look at that in a minute. But the transaction mark's an important development for the asset class. And they also expect the trade to open the door for other institutions. Other banks are setting up their crypto operations and trading desks, and understand what that means, trading desks. So they're getting into this for the volatility. They're getting into it for the trade. They're not getting into it because they think that Bitcoin and crypto are going to 10x and 100x from here. There is a lot of volatility in their trading volatility. And this trade was an NDO, which is a non-deliverable option. In other words, they're flipping contracts. They're not taking possession. This is not a spot Bitcoin play. This is an option to buy that has an expiration, and cash is what is delivered, not the actual crypto itself. So, it's a good move. It's a good step. And it's, institutional capital coming into the space, but this is not a spot Bitcoin activity that's going to drastically impact the price of Bitcoin one way or the other. It's just an option that investors are taking, speculating on the price of Bitcoin one way or the other. And that's a lot of the reason that you see these price fluctuations that we get in Bitcoin. We had a big up, weekend, last couple of days. Bitcoin jumped from the 20, where are we at here? Hang on one second here. From, yeah, I guess here it is. Okay. So right here, price jumped over the weekend. Let me get rid of this thing is not acting properly. Here we go. So price jump, there it is right there. Over the weekend, about on Bitcoin, 5%, 5.5%. And we're starting to unwind that move a little bit. Some of that was long and short liquidation. Some of it is whale manipulation. Markets are manipulated. You just got to roll with the markets and run with them. But Ethereum had a much bigger move over the last couple of days, and particularly over the weekend, had a nice little jump. Ethereum was up over this last little area over the last few days, about 20%. And then on the weekend, particularly, Ethereum jumped 7% and dropped back, and now it's starting to recover a little bit of that. Avalanche had a nice move. A lot of the altcoins, Solana, Matic, Cardano, Link, Crypto.com, Aave was the biggest move of all from basically the 15th of March. Aave jumped 45%. That was a big move. Proppy is one that I've been playing with and following. I do not recommend you mess with this one because it's extremely volatile. And if you don't watch it, this one can get you. But Proppy jumped 61% from a low around the 18th of March up to a high the other day. I think this was Sunday afternoon of about $2.15. So Proppy's been a fun one to be catching. And again, I don't recommend you play with this because who knows where this thing can go, but it seems to have put in a base. So some people ask about how I trade. I kind of watch this price action. And you catch it here on the lows when you know price is kind of finding support at these lower levels. This is a newish token, and on Coinbase anyways, you find these lower levels. You want to buy in at these lower levels and sell on these pops. You don't necessarily get the entire move, but if you can get 20-30% in a move like that, that's pretty fun. But you gotta be in this trade for a while, so you got to be willing to buy and hold and watch these things, and then set your sell price at whatever your target is, and it can, you know, go off automatically. You don't have to watch it. But when you look at it on a daily, it doesn't look good, right? It's straight downhill other than these pops. So this isn't, again, one that I'm recommending, but it's one of those ones that you can take a small percentage and play with and maybe catch some moves on. The other thing you want to look at is some of these other coins like a Solana, for instance, and kind of look at the patterns of what's going on. And Solana could be the same way. This is kind of an accumulation here for the pop and dropping again with a bounce and kind of working its way down. And you have to kind of look at it and see how this price is developing as we go along. And you look at a 4-hour, and there was our peak back in November, and it's been basically straight down ever since, kind of stepping its way down. So is Bitcoin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin again. Here's Bitcoin on the hourly. And we've been following this price action of higher lows that Bitcoin's been putting in, but at the same time, it's putting in lower highs. So you have to look at it on a 4-hour, and you can see this is back in the November timeframe where price has continually been stepping its way down till it put that bottom in around 35, 36,000 that we've been tracking since early January or mid to late January. And it's been kind of ranging in there ever since, but on this rising pattern, let's look at it on the daily of lows that we've been looking at. And we've been following this kind of a pennant pattern where price is looking to break out of potentially over the last couple of weeks. I know a lot of people are looking at this and looking at it in different ways on crypto, looking at the wicks and things. I like to use the closes because the wicks are just liquidations up and down. Closes is what really counts to me, where price action is closing on, and that's what really counts when you're looking at monthlies, dailies, and weeklies. So price is still kind of consolidating in this range, and we'll see what happens when it kind of forces its way to the end here, and you know whether it's going to work its way up or work its way down in terms of what the consolidation of this range is looking to do. And these have just been little rips up and down in this range, kind of like we saw over here, till price ultimately broke down and then rallied off of that. And again, right now there's a lot of headwind in the economy in general for risk assets, which Bitcoin is a risk asset like we've been talking about. If you look at this wedge back on the hourly, you could kind of see the range where price is bouncing around in. And again, you want to catch these lows and kind of wait it out and then if you're trading the ranges and sell on the pops, catch the low, sell on the pop. If you're a long-term holder, it all depends on where your basis is and when price, if and when price gets back to those highs, you have to make the determination of whether or not you're going to be a buyer or a seller at that point and, re-enter the space. And again, a lot of people got back in here at the highs or over here at the peaks and have waited for price to come back. They exit, they get out, they do not come back. A lot of people are kind of stuck in this range here, holding on to losses, waiting for price to recover. The longer this goes, the more likely they're going to be to sell up here, exit the space and not come back. So what drives price? Yeah, the fundamentals are good. The on-chain analysis is good. Adoption is good. We have regulation coming, but at the end of the day, what drives price is more capital. You need more capital in the space, willing to pay a higher price. Most of the institutions out there are looking for 30K Bitcoin. That's kind of where they have their strike price, their targets. So I don't know that price will be able to break that 30,000 threshold when it gets down there to test again, and it will get down there to test again. I know a lot of people want to say that Bitcoin will never go below 30, will never go below 35. Even this 35,000 low or bottom that I was talking about that we put in back here in January, the idea was that was a local bottom for a retracement to ultimately go back and test this macro low. So I've been looking for a test of this macro low after a retracement. We have not and did not get that retracement back to the $55,000 level that Bitcoin would typically do, like we saw over here back in August, September timeframe. So I'm not sure if we're going to see that with a big altcoin rally before we see a test back down to these range lows. So if price rolls over here, here's a thesis. If price continues to consolidate and rolls over here and kind of checks this low, range low and holds, then that's when we could potentially see more of a retracement before it rolls over, or continuation and try to retest this high again, which seems like the way things are heading could be a more likely scenario. But we do not have an accommodative Fed right now. It would take a regulation coming in so more institutions could come in and make some more spot type plays versus these exotic instruments, options, things like that are just volatility trades, which is what they're doing. Ultimately, what's going to drive price is more spot buyers and less selling on the parts of the whales and the miners. So we'll have to see more capital coming into the space to drive these prices up, more spot buyers coming into the space to drive the prices up. So these are the things that I'm looking at right now for Bitcoin, crypto, and the stock markets. Watch the close. We'll see what the momentum looks like into the close. And that's your key. Your big players are showing their hand at the opens and the closes of the markets in terms of what the sentiment looks like. And as you can see, headline risk is real. Markets are very sensitive to any headlines from the Fed or from the war. So keep an eye on those things, continue to protect. It is a risk-off environment right now because the Fed is out of the game. Markets are going to test the Fed to see if they're going to step into backstop. And if the Fed steps into backstop markets when that test comes, then that's going to be the opportunity to really enjoy some serious moves. And if you get a big sell-off and the Fed jumps in, well, then it's going to rip right back up just like it did back in March of 2020. So we'll just have to see what happens, see how things transpire. And I will see you on the next video.